Welcome to a second in the series of short video interviews with our HR Director of Leadership, where I ask what's next post-COVID-19. So joining me today is Scott Northcutt, who is the Senior Vice President, Human Resources at Bacardi Global Brands Limited. Good afternoon, Scott. Thank you for joining me from Florida.
Thanks, Peter. It's great to be here. As you know, I'm normally based in Bermuda, but I flew here and it turned out to be the last flight out of Bermuda. So I
Really?
have come here without any bags and have had to make do with very little clothes.
And very difficult to buy clothes at the moment, I guess, unless online.
That's right.
Well, listen, thanks for your time. I think what would be useful to start, if you could just perhaps let everyone know a little bit about you, your role with Bacardi, and your overall responsibilities, so we can get to know you a little bit more.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Scott Northcutt with Bacardi, head of HR. I've been with the company for 11 years, and it's a fascinating company, completely owned by the family, the Bacardi family. Rum company only until 1992, and has grown since then. We today have many of the world's favorite brands, including Bacardi, Grey Goose, Dewar's, Bombay Sapphire, Martini, and Patron. And we have operations around the world.
Terrific, thank you. And I do enjoy your Bombay Sapphire. So
I'm glad.
Right, Scott. So let's kick off with COVID-19, coming through the crisis and preparing for a better future. So the first question, I guess, is really around about your present key concerns and challenges for your employees and your organization. So kind of like the here and now, really.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Our number one concern that we expressed early on in this is and has been to keep our primos safe. And by the way, we use the word primo instead of employee because we're a family company, and primo is the Spanish word for cousin, and we feel we're all related that way. And we really look out for each other. But
Really
keeping
like
people
that.
safe and protected, really critical for us. And we're very fortunate to have had very few cases, relatively speaking, around the world. We operate in over 100 countries, and we don't just track our primos, but we track the family members as well. And in total, we've had around 70 cases around the world. And that most of those are family members. But the best news of all of that is almost all are now cured and moving on and feeling better. So we didn't have any tragic endings or hospital stays. So we're very pleased with that. And I do attribute part of that to the fact that early on in the process, we started a COVID-19 task force. And we started that in early to mid February, and I think that made a real difference. And some of the challenges obviously are staying connected like this and making sure they work, and with all the things that we have. But when we looked at the challenges that around the world, we thought the biggest one is how do we keep people connected? How do we keep people engaged and moving forward? And I must say, I'm really proud of how our people have come together, and we moved to work from home almost seamlessly. And a big thanks to our IT group, and we're all working remotely but staying connected. And some people say they actually feel closer now because of all the video meetings. You're sitting in your home, I'm sitting in mine, and here we are talking as just two people at home. And we do it obviously in our business, probably like a lot of others. We have a lot of virtual cocktails, so that helps people get to know each other better too. So the groups that tend to be most concerned about, Peter, are the person who is living alone in a flat and they don't have anybody there, they're not connected. How do we keep that person, so they don't feel like the walls are closing in? The other group would be the expats, the people who are living around the world and are, don't have family around them. How do we take care of those people? So they don't feel as alone and far away when they can't travel back home or check on their families. And then I think about the families who are living in small flats, and particularly, when everybody's there, when school's in session, mom and dad or either both, one working, it probably is fine. But now everybody's there. There's no school, and both parents may be working. if this isn't managed well, we're going to wind up with a lot of marital issues. Whose job's more important? Who needs to be on that call? What's happening with the children and so forth? And one of the things we did early on that particular point is we told people, look, we don't track when you work. You know what you need to get done. Your children, be with your kids, take care of your family. Do your work at a time that works for you. And I have a lot of people on my team, they also have to teach classes now, or they did. And I have a lot of people on my team who said that they prefer to work at night, late, where they can get it done. The kids are sleeping and they can focus, and fine. So we've given people that kind of flexibility. But I do worry about groups like that. And I guess what I would say, just the mental and physical well-being is top of mind. And we have Bacardi Assist, which is our way of letting people get the help that they need by talking to professionals, basically an EAP, and so we provide that for people. We've also provided that for our bar owners and their teams across the world, because that there's a real issue there, which I'll come to in a moment. But I would say, on people, it's really been, how do we make sure people are taken care of, engaged, getting the support they need, and for those that did have personal issues, being able to get care packages to them. So we've done a lot of things like that. We've had some great fun with people. We had the quarantine challenge, where one region started it, and they did it to music, and they did these music videos and tossed it across the world, and we even did it in Bermuda with all the leaders there, and nobody can be together, but the video brought people together. So we've had a lot of fun. And then on the organization side, many challenges like everybody else, just with what's happening with businesses and where are they. But particularly in our industry, a lot of the bars and restaurants, of course, have been closed around the world. And many of those will not reopen. There's a real risk, and this is their livelihood. They're mom and pop type shops, and they can't afford to keep people in place, and they're going to close. And as I mentioned before, one of the things we did is we offered the EAP to them as well, both for mental and physical well-being, but also financial. How are they going to handle the financial stuff that's going on? And then I'd say along with that is with the consumer. And people by nature are designed to be connected. We want to be with each other, and we can't. So how do we help people connect in new and different ways? Obviously the virtual cocktail helps some, but but even going forward, I think people will be cautious about going back out with mingling with people they don't know, and there'll be more barbecues and things along those lines. So how do we help people transition to this different way of connecting and support their way of coming together? And one of the things we have seen through the crisis, while bars and restaurants have really been almost non-existent in terms of business for us, and it's a big part,
No.
the grocery stores and liquor stores have exploded, and we've done a lot of business through those channels. Not enough to compensate for all the loss that you have in the other, but people are doing more. Again, people are transitioning to being together at home more. So Peter, I think overall that one of the keys that are really making a difference for helping us stay engaged with our primos is communication, and not just written, but we do regular meetings with people. We've done global webcasts across the world. Have one coming up on Thursday, where we'll be doing a presentation to teams about how we're looking at the new better. And then we also have a speaker, Jack Canfield, going to join. And he's the author of the Chicken Soup of the Soul and Success Principles. But what we're doing, it's a little different, is it's not going to just be our primos who are invited. We've asked the primos to include their families. Because the lessons there about thinking about, the future and how we're going to manage through it and what we're going to be like. So we're doing, I think, this communication with people in so many different formats and ways. And I think if we don't over-index on communication is where we really run the risk of COVID-19 being a much more destructive way beyond the physical health. And I think communication is the critical ingredient.
Okay, well, let's go on to question two then, because this normally I'm talking to people, and if I'm in the UK, certainly with an awful lot of people furloughed,
Yeah,
it's normally about staged return, and obviously a little bit different with you because you've been kind of carrying on through this and putting those measures in place. But let's have a listen to, I guess, some of the things that you've implemented to keep everyone safe in the actual work environment.
sure, sure. And one of the things that I'm pleased with that we did is the agility we've shown to convert how we work, where we work, and I mentioned, where the business is, and we've converted a lot of people more into supporting the stores and liquor stores. But the other thing we did with our operations group, we converted a lot of our plants to help make hand sanitizer, and we've done that all around the world for the healthcare professionals, et cetera. And we just donated it, right? And I think that is a great way to give back in a way to those people who are taking care of everybody. So pleased with that. Um, the but the question about how are we going to think about returning it, there's first of all, it's a bigger question, and I'll come to that a little bit later. But I do think whatever return there is will be a staged return, both by some of it by government, some of it by different countries, but also some people won't feel comfortable going back to their office or working right away, and it may be children issues, because schools may not be open, or a person may be at higher risk and isn't comfortable or concerned, may have older parents or something to take care of, and also just like in places like London and New York, where mass transit has been the appeal. Now all of a sudden it's the high risk place. You feel like you're getting in, into a little container dish of COVID. And so how are we going to work with all that, or all the questions we're asking in terms of that? And again, I think we're thinking differently about what the future could look like. But in regard to when people do go back to some kind of workspace, we're doing all the studies and participating in looking at air quality, spacing, looking at protective devices, masks, and partitions, et cetera. All of which I find a bit stressful, right? Because it is not how we're built as humans. I'm a hunter, and I'd love to go out and give people a hug, say hello, and have a meal with them. And our culture, there are two parts. One is we've always provided meals for people all around the world at lunch, and it's not for a free lunch as much as it is we like people coming together in one place and sharing a meal and talking, getting to know each other, and we think that adds so much to our culture. The other part is most of our offices have bars in them, and so we'll have, like in Bermuda, we call it the bat bar, and every Friday we have happy hour from 5 to 7, depending on how many people show up. And again, it's just a way of building that culture. And if you have to do the space thing and all that, it really challenges the culture and how we keep people feeling connected.
Yeah, no, I can see certainly from what you just said about the culture piece, it's just such a massive change for you, isn't it? So I guess it's trying to manage that, that because there must be a huge void for your employees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I guess that's where I think there are different ways to think than maybe we would have thought 90 days ago, right? And 90 days ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be meeting this way and thinking it's okay, right?
No, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Okay, and then and again, I don't know if you might mention this later on, but I did see another piece about in terms of the raise the spirits in terms because it was more about kind of investing back into that network, wasn't it? Those actual hospitality and
Yeah,
restaurants and bars.
yeah. We're doing lots of things there. We've made big donations to a lot of the different organizations that support the bars and restaurants and their staffs. But we've given millions and millions of dollars. The problem is it's really not a lot of money, even if every company does it for all
Yeah.
the people that are out there. It helps, and we believe it's the right thing to do. But we're trying to do more local things for people that make a difference, and that's what Raise Your Spirits does. It reaches into the local market and helps people meet some of their needs. But we're also doing the EAP for people, which really seems to make a difference for them, and that seems to be helping a lot. But there are so many challenges in the business right now with people, and as I said, in the United States, for example, 25% of the bars may never open again, and that's very difficult. So we're supporting them every way we can, making things available to people and partnering with them and coming up with new ideas to help things. And just for a little commercial here, we have a new product that has come out. This is a Bacardi ready to drink, and this is the fruit punch. And it's a beautiful packaging. But what's different about the Bacardi product than others is most of these, when you buy them, will be malt based. And this is actually spirit based, made with Bacardi. So fabulous taste. But what I love on here, it says, great when chilled, better with friends, right? And this is the fruit punch version. We got the lemon, and then we've got the lime and soda. So anyway, we getting those things out are helping people look for new ways to come together as well.
Yeah, I think I did see again that the frozen drinks as well. Because again, yeah, it's changing, isn't it? People are in their gardens, sort of enjoying things, barbecues, as you say. So okay, great. All right, so on to I guess the main third question, Scott, really, and I guess this is really looking about the future. So I guess from the opportunities of exploring from the learning from this crisis. So
Yeah.
uh, every business has got a journey, a destination, and so I guess has this crisis, have you learned from that? Is it going to change? If so, how will it affect you as an
Yeah.
HR director, HR function, and your employees? I'm quite interested in that.
Yeah. And I think that, probably, Peter, is the right question of all to ask. And again, I'm a bit of an optimist, and as I've said to you privately before, as painful as COVID is, and I would never wish it on any part of the world, I do think it's a bit of a wake up call for us as humans that, one, we are born to be connected. We value that more now than perhaps we did in the past. We're coming. We want to be together, and I think people are more caring and more thoughtful to one another. And how do we continue to do that? But also, as I was saying before, 90 days ago, a lot of the things that we're now thinking, we wouldn't think. And I will put myself right there. I've done a complete 180 on work from home. I was, I didn't plan to be in Florida to start with, and then I thought it'd be 2 weeks, and now here we are into I don't know how many weeks. But I've got to tell you, it's worked really well, and I didn't think it would. So here's the questions we're asking as we think about this, and this is what I think a lot of people probably are saying too: is what is the purpose of an office, right? And when you schedule meetings in the past, meetings were always hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all day. Most of the meetings I participate in now are scheduled for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And who you have in those meetings changes. So it's no longer just a hierarchy or a silo. I'm in meetings now with people from all different groups. In one meeting where one of our top executives, made a presentation, and right after her, an executive assistant made a presentation, all on using Teams and so visual and live. So what how do we benefit? How do we learn from that? And I think what we're seeing is that people can be productive from home. And so I think there are implications for us, even as we think, sorry to HR speak here, but even as we think about spans and layers, where we used to think you have to have this person in this place because they can't live somewhere else. We're now looking and saying that people can live in multiple places and maybe stay connected through this kind of means and be together periodically. And same thing with, again, when we ask the question, what's the role of the office? I think there's some role, but is it more like a hotel where people come together for certain times and certain meetings so you don't lose that touch? Because you can build a relationship, but it's easier to build that if you have some personal connection. And for those groups that have worked really well, what is it that has allowed for that? So we're doing a diagnostic with that. But we have found that our people are more agile than we thought. Decision making is faster than we had given ourselves credit for based on surveys. Um, and people just changing and making things work very quickly to meet the needs of consumers, to help each other. So, quite frankly, we see a lot of exciting things come out of it that we want to learn how do we leverage. So, what we've gone through, like a lot of people, a lot of different phrases, back together, the new normal. I didn't like back together because it was still saying back, looking backward. The new normal says in unprecedented times, uncertain times, that there is a normal, and by this date we'll be back to whatever that is. And so I don't know where I've heard it, but now we've adopted it, and what we're working towards is what we call the new better. So what we're going to be into in an environment is going to be new, but it's going to be better than where we were. And my job and my role, I think, is to help provoke that thinking. And normally, when you implement change, you're better to do it a little bit more on the evolution side versus revolution. I'm not arguing one or the other fully, but in this case, I think it's got to be a hard revolution shift, because if you let people start coming back into the office and everything is just as it was, you're not going to get to do this differently. And for the first time in my life, I'm betting in yours as well, Peter, it's the first time we see all stakeholders aligned that there's a better way, right? From the board to management to the front line, everybody is seeing that there's a better way to work. And now we have to crack it and see what that is. And I think that will take some time. And in Bacardi, we have teams working on that. We're also connecting with some other firms that are not in our industry to get their thinking. And we're just playing with ideas, but we're asking those provocative questions. And I think this may be one of the greatest opportunities we ever have. But if we don't act fast and if we don't think big enough, we're going to miss it. So I'm actually very excited about this opportunity for our company, and I think it's going to make us better, and I think we'll do a better job taking care of our customers and consumers as
Yeah,
America.
I think that's really, really nice way of looking at it. And I think I've always said all along, we've got to try and take the positives with, as I say, with every interview with these, because, it's been so difficult. And I love that. I love the better. I love, there's no point going back to what it was like. We've got to see a better way.
The new better, that's where we are.
Yeah, I really like that, Scott. I think that's great. Terrific. Okay, and I guess just last one for you then, really. I mean, you're a kind of an HR director, a global HR in a role right now. Exciting, frightening, scary. How do you feel about it all?
Yeah, well, a great question, and one that I obviously think about. And on balance, I would say it's exciting because I get to be there, listening to people all around about what have they learned, what are the things that are better than they were before. And actually, I've run some sessions. Okay, let's not talk about any of the negatives of COVID because they're there, but what are all the things that you have found are better? And so we're saying, when we think about how can you be your best you with your home family and your Bacardi family, and because now people have got that, they've got to be more, they've had more time with their family. How do we learn to keep doing that? And in my role, I get to be a part of that with a lot of people and help to lead and shape what we're going to do. We'll make mistakes, we'll push too far on some things, but we can fix that. But I think and on balance, it's a more exciting time than ever. On the other hand, I would say, I've had more nights where I've been concerned about some of the people that I mentioned before. I check in with people at all different levels just to see how they're doing. Particularly people either who live alone or I know they're struggling for some other particular reasons. And the nice thing about this though, it's okay to do it by video now. In the past, if you were to do a meeting, jump in and say, "Hey, I can't make it to your market. I'll join by video." It sounds like a drive-by. But now it's okay. And again, you sit in people's homes and other people join. So I do. I think there's a kindness that's coming from this as well. And if we can really bottle that and learn how to use it going forward, I think we'll be better and more agile and I think it's going to help people have better home lives.
It's just all moving so quickly, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as you say, the worry is everyone gets back to the normal. We forget all these lessons that we've learned, haven't we? So
Yeah, and we'll actually be in a worse place because,
yeah,
yeah, people's dogs are used to having them home. People are seeing their kids and they're having me. And if you pull people away from all that, you're going to cause issues at home as
yeah,
well. And I was talking to a group over in Bangkok today where they have people going back to the office earlier because they had it. And but as she was describing, people are coming back, they're sitting further apart, they're not having food together, they're not. I was starting to feel stressed, right? And I'm thinking, is that really what we want in life,
yeah,
or is there a better way? And and hopefully we'll move fast enough to get to that new and better.
yeah. No, that's really, I think, absolutely some really nice points there, Scott. That is really fantastic. I appreciate you spending some time with me. I think it's interesting. As I said, I've talked to someone in construction so far, now the drinks industry. Very sort of different ideas coming out, which is great. And in terms of how you're dealing with this, which is a global crisis. Um, so thank you so much for your time, and I will speak to you soon. Just everyone join me next time when I talk to another HR director, and we'll see how they're navigating and exploring the challenges, but opportunities ahead. Thanks,
Yeah.
Scott.
Thank you, Peter.